Welcome to the BobbleOn podcast,
where we're committed to providing practical advice and strategies to increase your revenue, unify your team, and create accountability throughout your organization.
Let's go. BobbleOn, Maddie.
BobbleOn, from remote Boston to remote Southborough.
It is the land of milk and honey out here.
Yeah? How's the honey?
I would say the honey out here is the grass, and the grass is still dead, has not grown completely. It's not bad, but I wouldn't lie on it.
It's still April 29th. I mean, we're not talking, it's pretty early in the year for New Englanders. I'd be surprised if there was grass.
You have nothing really else to focus on, though. Like, they say excellent patience is being able to watch grass grow. I got to tell you, that's not very fun.
Yeah.
Not on my high list.
I was on the phone yesterday with an agent. I'm not going to say his name because he might not want me to say his name, but he's an agent. It rhymes with, no, I'm just kidding. He said he spends, I don't know the start date, but I'm guessing it's probably around January 1st to May 31st in Miami, and then comes back to the New England area from June 1st to the end of December.
And I already know what you're talking about. It's awesome.
That's a special way to live. I love that.
I love that guy. I won't say his name. If you're watching the video, you might have caught it. But no, I think it's an interesting time out here. You know, a lot of changes in the air. I'm looking forward to nice weather, regardless of what happens with COVID. I'm looking forward to, today's a sunshiny day. Good day.
I think everyone needs it. We need something to let some hope, some positivity, some sunshine, some, what is it, vitamin B or D? Vitamin D. D, as in David.
It makes sense that you'd have no idea. There's ginger in you.
Yeah, no, I have to put on enough SPF. The vitamins don't actually get through it.
No, they can't. Someone shared with me yesterday this screenshot of the weather across the country, and we had the coldest weather. Boston specifically had the coldest weather in entire North America.
Wow. Yeah. That's something I'm not proud about.
No, and California was 100, and all these other places were super warm. It was like a heat wave, and Boston was 36 or something like that.
Don't forget, extremely windy.
Yeah, exactly. Can't not be.
Wow. So we're gonna forego our personal bests and dive into it. You want to start us off and kind of let the listeners know what we're talking about today?
Yeah. Well, listen, BobbleOn. This is awesome. This is so fun. We opened this podcast on a mission, and that mission was really, in the beginning, to help you with referral relationships, to help you drip on referral partners, to help you obtain more referral partners, what to do in a meeting. And that was so fun. And then people asked us more questions about leadership, management, culture, strategy, weekly meetings. And we just kept going and going and going like the Energizer Bunny. And it's been a blast.
I think at the beginning, you and I, we talked about, should we map out? I think we talked about a ton of different topics and everything. I said, you know what, let's just start with what we know people need help with and what people are asking us for and what's really worked well for us. And we're like, well, we'll do 12 episodes and then, see where things go. So what, 65 episodes later? And I'm so happy that we've been able to help as many people as we helped. And we really feel like this has been a complete project. A complete project, start to end, where, as you said, starting with referral partnerships, how to generate new opportunities, how to create and nurture. Everything we've done that's been successful at G&N, we talked about on the partner relationship side. And to your point, tons of feedback, tons of questions. It really drove the rest of our podcast material. But we don't want to continue a podcast just to continue it. We wanted to make sure that we are offering tremendous value to every single listener. And we've decided that this is the last episode for BobbleOn Podcast.
You what? No, yeah, we view this as a complete project. Looking back, if you are opening an insurance agency, or if you are in sales or in leadership or working in it at all, you can listen to any episode in this podcast, and the podcast is not going anywhere. It's not being removed. We're not contacting Apple support and removing it. It is a project that should live in infamy. It should stay here. It will always be referenceable. We just think the project is over. We think the podcast is a complete work of art. And a work of art that you, the listener, helped create. Because the majority of this was not in our own heads. What was in our own heads was like the first 26 episodes, referral relationships. Outside of that, it's been your feedback, which was special.
A lot of great questions that drove the content and really took us from where we knew we would be to a new place that we loved. I mean, it was great to be able to talk about organizational health. It was great to talk about structure and process and teamwork and leadership management styles, meeting structures, everything. And it gave a lot of people a snapshot on what we were doing on an intimate basis with agencies, but it was specific to insurance agents. And that's what we set out to do with BobbleOn. BobbleOn Podcast was not meant to be a solution and a solve or a service to every single person out there, to every entrepreneur, business owner, to sales reps, to managers. So it was specifically set and geared towards insurance agents, specifically insurance agency owners, that were going through a lot of the same processes and pain points and hurdles that we've kind of encountered, which is why I think we have had as good of an engagement as we've had and following, because people know that we're speaking from our own experience.
Amen. We didn't have anything to talk about other than what we know. And when we didn't know what we were talking about, we brought people on to tell you their experience on that. What we thought about throughout this entire journey was we didn't want to have other insurance agents the entire time talking about it. We wanted to give you our personal experience. It's something we can know, we can touch, we can tell you where it went wrong and how it went wrong. When I or you don't personally do something, we typically don't know everything about it. Like we're not going to tell you the best way to run your HR department because we've never run the HR department. We don't know how to do that. We focused on what we did well, and the feedback poured in, and we kept going and kept going and kept going. And the feedback's still pouring in, but it's time.
Yeah, it's time to shift. Now, what does that mean? What does that shift look like? We've got, we want to expand the audience that we can help. That's the main point. We want to expand the audience, which means that insurance agents and insurance agency owners will continue to be able to be served by the content we create. But we also want to be able to serve our clients, our referral partners, our business strategic partnerships, sales reps in different industries, managers in different industries. We want to be able to serve a lot more people in a different style and a different format. So we are not getting off the airways and just saying, you know what, we're hanging it up, we're done with content creation. The opposite is going to happen. We're actually going to start a new podcast that's going to serve a larger, greater audience.
So you're saying two things. To our listeners, you're saying it's not you, it's me. That's part one. And part two is we're going to be staying on the interwebs. We are still on the line, as Vince Vaughn says. Like we're not going anywhere. We love podcasting. It's just this particular project is done. And we like how that's phrased because that's true. We set out on a mission, and the mission is complete. Now, we are now going to be on a new mission, and we do think it'll be enjoyable. We think it's entertaining, and it's much more of an interview-style podcast, which we can really go back and forth and dive deep into things we don't know about and to things we do. And we think it'll be very entertaining and applicable for insurance agencies, but it's not going to be a tutorial on how to network. It's not going to be a tutorial on how to sell multiple policies per client.
I think one of the things, Zach, that sorry to interrupt, this interweb gets in the way sometimes. One of the things that you and I have found over the years is that a lot of the really good ideas that we took and ran with came from outside the industry. Didn't come from other insurance agents. We've learned a lot from other insurance agents as well, but a lot of the stuff that has really taken the company and skyrocketed was stuff we've learned from outside the industry, people in different professions that are challenged with similar problems, but are have to deal with it in different ways than we have. From their competitors, maybe ahead of the game in certain areas, and so we can learn from.
How many insurance books have you read outside of getting licensed?
I don't even know if I read that.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's your point is dead on. You're gonna learn way more from reading a Abraham Lincoln biography than an insurance book.
And that's part of the reason why we started the podcast in the first place, is we wanted to just offer education and content that was tangible, that was nuggets that people could take with and run that week. And it really worked well. After doing 3 or 4 interviews on the BobbleOn podcast, we realized that the exposure to new people in new industries with new experiences could really add another level of value to our listeners. And now it's time, and we've really enjoyed behind the scenes getting some of these under our belt, and we're excited to let people know about it, but we're going to hold off until the right time. And that right time is...
But yeah, point being, you'll know about it. Don't worry. Like, we'll make it clear. You'll probably get an email. You might see a social media post or two. We're not going to be quiet about it. You'll see it. The thing we're so excited about with the next podcast is just, there's no drip marketing. There's no CTA to book a workshop or something like that. This is just what we're interested in. It's another project. It's going to be super fun. We're going to have you on that journey. But let's talk about BobbleOn for a second. Let's look back. Let's open up the treasure chest. Give me a favorite moment or two from the BobbleOn podcast, Maddie.
Yeah, well, I think for me, the first thing that stood out was when we launched the podcast. I think that's just, it'd be kind of weird to just jump in to other memories before kind of talking about that. And not to go too far down the memory lane here, but we were honored.
You go as long as you want to.
We were honored to be able to keynote on stage the IAOA conference a year and a half ago. Almost a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, year and a half? Yeah, about a year and a half ago, and in front of 1,000 insurance agency owners. And we were able to take that opportunity to let all those people know that we were starting the BobbleOn podcast on stage, and had everyone subscribe right then and there. And so that really launched us, immediately into a place where we had a ton of reviews, a ton of listeners, and a lot of feedback, which is what I think startup podcasts sometimes miss, is the feedback. You want to get as much critical feedback as you do praise. And it was nice to get all the reviews, but we also immediately got feedback like, hey, can you actually touch on this? Can you address this? And a lot of that came from a huge subscribership right away. That was fun on stage, announcing the podcast, and then really just jumping into the first one and being on. I think our first one that we did, I remember we were sitting in the conference room by ourselves. Was it a weekend? I think it was. I think we were just sitting recording on like one mic or on our phone.
Yes, it was on our phone.
Yeah, just diving into it and talking about what referral partner, the referral partner process, really.
Yeah. 3 tips for like creating relationships.
And then the first 5 episodes or so was all about that, all about generating and creating referral partners in a more systematic and procedural way that's proven, opposed to what most people in most industries do, which is just kind of, go to networking events and make cold calls and connect with people and friends and family. And, so it was really exciting. Those first few episodes really stand out in my mind.
Yeah.
What about you?
I like the socially distancing podcast with you is much better than being huddled around an iPhone. It's where we've gone is much better. I will say I would say 2 favorite ones that come to mind. Actually, I don't want to say most commented on, but like maybe like in my forefront of my mind, it feels that way. We did a podcast on how to say thanks, where we talked a lot about our relationship with gift cards and our relationship with how we try to say thank you to our referral partners. And that's been one that's been talked about a lot. And another one that we did that got a lot of great feedback was about sponsorships and about our specific tips on golf sponsorships and other things of that nature, where it's been podcasts that people still bring up to me today. And we released that podcast like over a year ago, and people are still listening to it. And that's specifically why we're not getting rid of the BobbleOn podcast, because you can still go listen to it. You can still go listen to me stumble through the first couple, and we're having fun. Speaking the language is another one that comes to mind that for you and I was just so matter of fact, and so like, hey, here's just how we do it, and here's what we recommend you do, and it's just been such a topical podcast.
Yeah, I think some of the things that stood out, throughout the journey was at conferences, having people come up and say, yeah, I require my entire team to listen to it. And I was like, oh, you listen to it? He's like, oh, I listen to it too, but really I find that it's really valuable for my sales reps and my team members. And so I just tell them to listen to it. So they all subscribe and listen to it. And it was interesting. We didn't actually see that happening, but we're thrilled that more people were able to be helped by the content. And yeah, I definitely agree that as we've grown the podcast throughout the journey, we have distanced ourselves. I mean, we went from about 3 inches apart with a phone to a room which is colored to fit our what do they call it, pigments very well, in like about 3 feet diameter. And now we're 30 miles, 35 miles. So it's really working out well for us.
It's 24. I've known, I've walked, I've timed it. It's close.
Is it 24?
You're right. It's like, thank God for ZB. Shout out to you, ZB. I think none of this would be possible without this mythical creature named ZB, who most of you have not seen before. He's like a leopard. He's really hard to track down. But ZB does so much work behind the scenes to make this look good. One thing we're pretty proud of just in general is every single podcast we've just recorded. Like, we don't record in snippets and then he kind of puts it all together. This is just as you probably can tell, as we and on and stutter through the whole thing. But this is just how we are, and we're trying to be as authentic as possible. But ZB does a ton of work to make this digestible, and he gives us a ton of feedback on what we should cut out at the beginning and end. And sometimes we even had to re-record a podcast because he just didn't like how it comes off. So ZB, thank you. And we're excited to continue the journey with you. You are also renewed. Your contract is renewed for the next one. But you do so much more in this podcast, but epic work from you, ZB.
When he gets to this point in the podcast, he's just going to take a deep breath and a big middle finger, at the same exact time.
Yeah, I think this is when he takes out the Cooler Ranch Doritos and just lies back on the couch. But yeah, this has been fun with you, ZB, so thank you.
I think this is, we're really excited to be able to continue the journey. I mean, this project is done, but the journey just kind of began. And when it comes to content and podcasting, and it's a really great form and medium to be able to communicate your message and communicate other people's message. And I think this next stage, we're really excited is to not just be the educator, but more the facilitator for other educators. And if you're listening to somebody who has absolutely risen to the top of their field in a different industry, or done something extremely interesting, or gained a ton of followers, or it has a huge following in a completely different business, they're going to be able to give feedback, give insights, give experience, and that you as a listener will be able to benefit from. So we're hopeful that a lot of you continue on the journey with us. And when we do have information on that, as Zack said, we will share it with you, and it will be in your ear and in your eye, and that's exactly a good example of us not editing. In your ears and in your eyes.
We'll just leave that there. So thank you to everyone listening and watching out there. This has been so fun. This has been an awesome journey. I love how we just went deep into a lot of topics. I love the feedback we've got. It's been addicting how you guys have pushed us to share more, to be a little bit more vulnerable, to dive a little bit deeper, your questions, your constant feedback. Awesome. Rock on.
BobbleOn, baby.
BobbleOn, peeps.